Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Expert Insight. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm delighted to be joined once again by writer and Dutch football expert for This Is Anfield, Joe Baker. Joe, how are you, my friend? UK?
I'm good, thank you. I'm not bad. Still a little bit confused, as we were discussing just before the start of this, about what happened yesterday and some of the performances, and also I guess, the decision making from Slot, and some of the lack of proactivity. I still can't get my head around Alex McAllister marking Dan Burn on every single corner. I said right before the goal, please not McAllister on him again, and he was, and there you go. But yeah, feeling a bit clear about it now. I'm sure we'll get into it, but a weird one yesterday.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, and you and me both on the McAllister Burn situation. I mean, if ever there was a mismatch and it was glaringly obvious and was likely to come back
Yeah,
and haunt us, there it was.
yeah,
We'll start there. It is the perfect place to start because obviously this chat's been in the offing for a little while and we sort of
yeah,
held off, and now with the international break feels like the perfect time to do it, really. In terms
yeah.
of sort of the most recent example of what we're here to discuss in terms of sort of the attacking lack of efficiency and deficiency as well, if you like, as well. It was there for all to see. It was kind of laid bare for us because
Mm,
Liverpool was second best in pretty much every department yesterday. A lot of that was sort of away from the quality side of things and away from the systems and the tactics. Some of it was pure fight and pure will and desire to win
mm,
a game of football. But the most sort of damning and obvious area of the pitch whereby we were lacking compared to what Newcastle had probably was a
mm,
centre forward, if we're being honest, because we've tried things. Isak gets one chance back of the net. He actually had two chances and they both ended up in the
yeah,
back of the net. One of them was ruled out. So it does kind of lend itself to this conversation, especially when Liverpool look so toothless in attack.
yeah. I mean, it could have been a hat trick for Isak, because Kelleher made an incredible save, I think, point blank, just before Isak's actual goal. But yeah, I think I'm glad we didn't speak as planned initially after the game, because I think I wouldn't really have the words to describe what I'd seen. But yeah, that final really crystallised across 90 minutes everything that Liverpool are currently lacking in forward areas and everything that they need. Isak, I know we'll get to that, is the ideal player for that Liverpool system. And Jota and Nunez have their merits, but they're just not that. I think what staggered me most about it really was the number of just crosses into the box, long diagonals, aimlessly playing long balls up to Jota against two big centre backs made absolutely no sense. At one point, I thought I'd gone back in time 11 years and that Dan Burn was suddenly wearing a Fulham shirt playing at Old Trafford against David Moyes' Man United, when I think United had a record number of crosses into the box and Burn was just standing there heading every single one away. I couldn't believe that the tactics didn't change second half. I think that's partly also quite damning of the centre forward area, which we were talking about today. There was just nothing really showing from Liverpool in those forward areas. There was no one physically challenging the Newcastle centre halves. I didn't really see enough stretching of the game. There was no one dropping deep and linking the play. It seemed to be get the ball out wide to Salah and put a cross in the box, or get the ball out wide to left back, or in the second half gap go put a cross in the box. Very poor movement. It only really was when Chiesa came on out of nowhere. Really, I think many Liverpool fans would have thought he would have changed the game. That he actually started to look like they were causing a bit of threat. It was kind of stretching the Newcastle defence a little bit. So yeah, before I know we got a question on this, I was going to say that I felt that part of the reason Salah has been so dominant in terms of the goals of Liverpool is a big part, just some of the way that the system sort of plays. But I think that game really showed how reliant Liverpool are on Salah. And if he's not quite at it, or he's been marked really well, like he was by Livramento and like he was by Nuno Mendes in the Champions League, then Liverpool have a bit of a problem.
No, absolutely. I want to come on to Salah in more detail in a moment because I do
Yeah.
wonder whether that's just down to the sheer outright brilliance of Salah and the fact that he is just what he is, the footballer, and he's always going to have the lion's share of goal output, or whether it's something that Slot wants, or whether it's just, like I say, the lack of a nine that he really, really needs and wants in this squad. And before we do, though, just in terms of like Liverpool's options right now, obviously Darwin
Yeah.
Núñez, Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz falls into this bracket as well, given he's played centrally, which in of itself might be something that sort of highlights highlights the fact that Arne Slot maybe doesn't have total trust or faith in Jota and Núñez being able to execute what he does want from that position. Darwin Núñez, 7 goals, 7 assists in now 40 appearances in all comps. But the form actually is 1 goal in 13. Diogo Jota, 8 goals, 3 assists in 29 appearances all comps as well. 1 in 11 when it comes to form. And Luis Diaz, 13 goals, 5 assists, 42 appearances, all comps again. Albeit left wing predominant, of course, and 1 goal in 18 appearances. So the reason we're having this conversation to start off with, Joe, is that really, that's laid bare in so much as that just, whatever Slot wants from his 9, which is what we're going to come on to, is the crux of the conversation. However you want to slice that, those numbers for a team at the top of the Premier League and up until recently potentially challenging for a quadruple, albeit never likely, that just doesn't stack up at all.
Yeah, it's baffling, isn't it? I mean, I think Darwin Núñez is a striker fit for chaos ball, and that's the antithesis of how Slot likes to play and what he wants from a centre forward. I think Núñez has a role in the team, but it's when the game is stretched, it's when there's they need someone to the game's somewhat opened up. I don't think he's great within a particular system. You can't play the amount of goals Liverpool score, chances they create. You can't have numbers that low as a Liverpool centre forward. He signed for big money in 2022. He's had 3 seasons now. Sometimes as football fans, and we can jump too quickly to make assessments on players, but I think he's had long enough now that he was good enough to start regularly and score goals. He would be. I do think he can offer more than he's been shown. I think physically he's strong, he's quick, he's mobile. There's been times where you can see the striker you can maybe become, but I think if Liverpool are looking to invest in other areas, which I know we'll get to, he's someone they're going to have to cash in on a bit this summer. Jota, I'm really confused by Jota. He's very much a slot forward in lots of ways. He's positionally versatile. He's in theory strong in terms of pressing, or we didn't see much of that yesterday. But he's just not a natural enough number 9. I would say keep him if we're thinking about selling one of the two. I think Jota has a role to play. I thought his goal numbers would be enough this season. I think in 22-23 he scored 21 in all comps, last season around 15, which isn't bad, that's pretty good, but there's been a clear drop of this season. Is it fatigue or is it injury? He has been an injury liability. I think he's missed 42 games now across 2 seasons, and as I know we'll get to, Slot needs his players to be physically strong. And then finally with Diaz, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, it's just an option. It's more damning of Núñez that Diaz has been playing there. He's fundamentally not a striker. He's better out wide. It's a bit like, for example, Rashford, when he tries to put him down the middle, he can do a job against certain teams, but he's most naturally out wide, cutting in, using his pace and his skill. He can work in certain situations. I'm surprised that Slot didn't go with Diaz actually as a false 9 against PSG. I thought maybe having, or maybe even Curtis Jones and having that block midfield 4 maybe in that game. And also, Liverpool fans may not want to hear this, but again, if you're looking to raise funds to invest elsewhere, I do wonder if Diaz is someone that could cash in on this summer. He's 28, he's a prime age still. I think there was interest in Barcelona last season. It's a risk, but it could help fund other areas of the squad, and Gakpo is a natural replacement. So they've all got roles to play in the team. None of them, in my opinion, have a clear role as Liverpool's number 9.
No, far from it. I don't think any of those 3 are untouchable when it comes to transfers, to be honest, which feels huge in terms of upheaval, especially when you consider what else needs doing in and around the squad. But for all the reasons you outlined when it comes to Jota and Núñez, absolutely. But the Diaz one, you mentioned the age, and that's one element of it. But he's never had a new contract since he arrived at the football club, and he's only got 2 years left on his deal come this summer. So it feels like a sort of time whereby he might be looking to cash in or give him a new deal. Is he new deal worthy? Worthy when it comes with a massive pay hike? Probably not. So I do think he's potentially open to offers for Luis Diaz. And you mentioned interest from Barcelona. I think maybe more importantly, there's interest from Diaz and the Diaz family in going to Barcelona. So one to watch most definitely. In terms of sort of the spread of goals and where they come from, I mean, Mo Salah's numbers, let's quickly address them momentarily. 32 goals, 22 assists in 43 appearances, like frightening numbers. And that gets you to thinking, as I touched on a moment ago, is it a Mo Salah thing? Is it because he is a genius and he's world class and, was in Ballon d'Or contention, still may well be?
It should be,
Or, it should be, yeah. Or is it a system thing? Is it the fact that we just go to Salah because he's sort of the focal point of our entire team? Is it an Arne Slot-led thing? Is there a happy medium to all of this? I had a quick look at some of the numbers that sort of portrayed to Slot and what he's done so far in his career. And remarkably, he's already the second top goal scorer that Arne Slot has ever worked with. Santiago Jimenez is top of that particular list. So it just is we'll dig into the details, into the weeds of it in a moment. But for you, Salah a winger, Jimenez obviously more of an archetypal centre forward, 49 goals and 13 assists in 85 appearances, by the way, for Santiago Jimenez, which is very, very impressive as well. Is it because Salah's Salah that the goals have come from him predominantly, or is it more to it than that?
Well, I think firstly it's important to caveat that a lot of people, because of what's happening in PSG and then also yesterday, as I said at the start of this conversation, there is now an overriding feeling that it's Salah or bust and the team's built around him, and if he's not flying then the rest of the team is struggling. And I get that argument. I kind of feel it myself to an extent, but I think to answer your question, I think it's a bit of both. I think he's world class. He's having one of the best seasons he's ever had. He should be in consideration for the Ballon d'Or. So it's natural when you've got a player as good as he is that the goal tally is going to swing his way a little bit. But it's also worth pointing out he's also got, I think it's 17 assists. He's got 11 more assists for the next player in the Liverpool squad, which is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So if Salah's providing as well as scoring, why haven't Jota and Nunez been making the most of these opportunities Salah's been creating? It's not like it's get the ball, give it to Salah, hope he scores. He's been creating chances and creating goals as well. And that's damning on the rest of the Liverpool team in terms of chipping in and someone else, like predominantly those two players we've discussed, Nunez and Jota, contributing more. And I think Slot has managed to get the best out of Salah, but also in a way that hasn't been to the detriment of the team structure or way of playing. Let's not go overly negative here. Liverpool are flying in the league. Yes, they lost to PSG, but PSG are a fantastic team. There's a bit of a Little Britain attitude sometimes towards foreign leagues and foreign countries. PSG are very good. Everyone instantly criticised Liverpool for being poor. PSG are excellent across those two rounds. It's frustrating, but it's no shame losing penalties to that team. Still top of the league. And I think a big part of that is Slot had based everything around Salah. Liverpool would not have been so solid defensively as they've been over the course of the season. They would not be, I think, at the moment, 12 points clear at the top. And I think there's this, finally, to answer, there's this improving idea that Slot in the way is just, he's gone, okay, Salah's world class, I'm going to let him do his own thing. But he's really put the work in defensively too. And with the pressing, you think back to the City game, how much he was tracking back to help Trent to double up on Doku. He was sprinting back almost as much to get back on the right wing as he was getting forward. And I looked very quickly at the percentages of tackles per dribbles of Salah, Jota and Nunez. Salah has 58% tackle success rate from people dribbling against him. So that's 58% from 12. Jota's 25% from 16. Nunez 33% from 15. So Salah's not just the best defensively, he's the best with assists as well, so his goal scoring and assists, and in terms of the defensive metrics, in terms of his tackling and work rate as well. So, it's obviously he's a great player. A lot of the goals come through him, but I think the fact he scored so many goals and provided a lot is also quite damning upon the other players within the squad.
No, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we're going to touch on why that might be the case and what Slot is looking for momentarily. While I've got you on this particular topic, though, when it comes to sort of the spread of goals and where they've come from in Arne Slot's managerial career thus far, obviously, as mentioned, Santiago Jimenez is top of the list, then it's Salah. Then it is a bit of I was kind of expecting thinking we might see a trend of just pure centre forwards. It is a bit of a mismatch of different positions. There's Idrissi, left winger, Boadi, another centre forward, Sinisterra, winger as well. But then there's a real sort of glut of attacking midfielders. When it comes to obviously Liverpool right now, and Dom Szoboszlai is that guy, he's not really stacking up when it comes to numbers. He's chipping in, but. I mean, it's Kochu, it's Koopmeiners, it's Goose Till, it's Stengs. They've all contributed quite heavily, like a sort of a 1 in 3 type in the round record when it comes to Slot. Which again, this is a conversation for another day, slightly, but it does suggest that he wants numbers from that 10.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think his numbers were as high as the ones you've said, but there's also players like Quinton Timber did really well playing further forward in the slot. Orkan Kokcu ended up playing further back with under him at final, but he also contributed a lot of goals from midfield. I think there's certainly an argument to be made that McAllister, Gravenberg, Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones all need to be chipping in more. I think Curtis Jones missed a great chance yesterday, not long after he came on. At the time, I thought it was a great save by Nick Pope, and it was to an extent. But when you see the replay, it's like just put any side of him, get your head over it. It's in the back of a net. So there is an argument there, of course, as well. As you mentioned, there's other wingers on that list as well with high goals. I think Sinisterra with 23. 40 goals, 14 assists. Paschal, he's still at Feyenoord now, very high numbers too. Even Jankovic, if I can say his name correctly, he's played for Brighton, couldn't score at all in the Premier League. He did pretty well there as well. So yeah, it's a spread thing. But then again, look, let's also try to be positive. If Liverpool win the league in a month's time, our fans are going to be going, we won the league, but I wish our midfielders had scored more goals.
No, granted, but I just think we are sort of, I think we're getting into realms in this conversation and the previous conversations that we have are this really of Slot really wanting his squad now. Like, he's done a brilliant job with the squad he inherited, but I think he himself has given a few subtle nods towards the fact that they are planning for the summer and it could be a big one. Who knows who could be in and out the door. And I think, this is what it is, basically. What does Slot actually want? So let's talk Santiago Jimenez with that in mind then. Obviously, he made the move away from Feyenoord now, but under Arne Slot, what exactly was he as a nine? I think a lot of people are sort of a bit muddled in their thinking, and that again is because of what he's had to work with so far. It's hard to know exactly definitively what he wants his nine to be. Was Jimenez that, maybe?
He certainly was. Just very quickly, because I just remembered I mentioned in the last question, Harvey Elliott needs to play more.
Yeah, it's true.
Harvey Elliott, if you're looking for goals and assists in his attacking areas, I don't know why he came on so late yesterday. He did against PSG. He's versatile. He can play that number 10 role. If I was Slot, and I don't know if many of Liverpool fans feel the same, I think Elliott needs a run in the team. I think Szoboszlai looks a bit knackered. Elliott's chomping at the bit. Just give him a run of matches, just to say.
That's fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Before
I forget that. But yeah, Jimenez, look, I don't think he's good enough for Liverpool. Even if he hadn't moved to Milan this summer, I think he needs a couple more years. He needs to prove he can really do it at a top club. He started well at AC Milan, so that's good to see. But in terms of what he offers and why he was so great for Slot, to the naked eye, he looks like your classic number 9. But as you watch him play, you realise he really blends a lot of the traditional necessities of a centre forward, but also mixed with the modern attributes you expect now of your goal scorers. So traditional attributes. He does his work around the penalty box. He's a real predator around the 18-yard box. He links the play well, including dropping deep and enabling wide players to push on. Hence why those wingers have scored so many goals in the slot in the past. Dropping deep, letting him get forward past him, and he scores all types of goals. And I looked at numbers quickly before. I think during his time at Feyenoord, he had 29 of his left, but then also 11 with his right, 12 headers as well. So he's a good blend of different goals. That doesn't count penalties, tap-ins, and even chests as well. But in terms of his modern attributes, he works really hard off the ball to press, but he doesn't just run around like a headless chicken like Nunez does sometimes. He works within a press. He's intelligent. We watch him play for Milan if we get a chance to. It's targeted pressing. It's not just running and tiring yourself out. So Slot really trusted him to play within a system. He wasn't just there to score goals, and he was there to provide them as well. His assists really went up during his 2 years under Slot. I think it was 3, even up to like 8 or 9. And by the time he left Feyenoord, naturally under a different manager by this time, he was already on 5. So that element of his game had really improved as well. So he's a real blend, Jimenez. And whilst, as I say, I don't think he's maybe the level Liverpool quite need for their needs right now in terms of those attributes, he certainly would fit well, or a player akin to him would fit well for Slot.
Yeah, it's interesting that in terms of the type, maybe he needs to go up a notch or two in terms of the quality that you can bring to the table. But even then, he has a general mix and stylistic fit of what Slot is clearly looking for. And just on that quickly, is there anything that he was missing that you felt like Slot might have wanted him to do? Was there any sort of, because sometimes, certain game states might have suggested he might have dragged him off because he didn't suit certain situations and certain opposition?
Pace. He's not the fast. I mean, it sounds like I'm trying to describe the perfect striker here, and we know it's a tough market for centre forward. So maybe I'm being a bit, but yeah, he's not the quickest. Premier League's very fast, intense league. Physically, he was very strong. He was rarely injured. I don't think. I think during his, I think he missed 2 or 3 matches because of injuries during 2 seasons in the slot. He was always available. Which is such an important thing with how physically Slot needs his players to be. But yeah, just a bit of pace lacking, and maybe not as, be playing the ball up to him, a bit like what Liverpool tried to do yesterday in front of Dan Burn and Fabian Schär. He maybe wasn't always the strongest at holding the ball up. But yeah, in a nutshell, for Slot's teams to really work, you need that right type of number 9. And it's really obvious there isn't that player right now.
Absolutely, yeah. So then, in that case, I take it that is what he's looking for from his 9. Some of the attributes you just described there.
Yeah, 100%. It's so Jimenez encompasses a lot of what Slot wants in a striker. So you need to deliver on your job with scoring goals, of course, but also ensure you can fit within the part of the wider whole. A bit like what Salah's doing. I mean, we refer back to the comments made about the assists and the work rate. But yeah, the crucial benefit is being physically durable too. Slot players have put so much work in physically. I think part of that explains the slight dip recently, but maybe not with the squad depth isn't there. Potentially the rotation hasn't been possible. You can't be carried as a Liverpool a slot number 9. Excuse me. You can't be constantly in and out of the team like Jota has been. As I said, I think Jimenez missed 3 games through injury under Slot. I don't think Slot's necessarily looking for the finished product. I think he's a very good coach. He can improve players quite a lot. But if you look at the numbers from it, so Slot's first season at Feyenoord, when he really revolutionised the team. They were a complete mess when he came in. So many players had left who'd been on loan. They'd had one of the worst seasons in many years the season before. And that season, when they reached the Europa Conference League final, I think Cyril Dessers, who's now at Rangers, he's never really been that prolific. He's not prolific now under Ages, but even he that season scored 19 goals in like 40 appearances. It was almost like 1 in 2. So it shows you have some of the right attributes, Slot can really get something out of you if you get the right man in the door. I'm not saying Liverpool should sign Dessers, just to be clear.
Yeah, good job you clarified that. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the word trust there, and then you followed up not long after about squad depth, because we had a big chat earlier on in our podcast about, I believe some of the squad depth is there in terms of the individuals and the qualities that they bring. They don't all fit Slot's system. That's quite evident, certainly in certain aspects. But I think more importantly than that, I don't think Slot trusts them all to sort of throw them into starting matches a lot. And listen, he might have got it better, made a few wrong decisions along the way. I think Harvey Elliott's definitely one that's been underused this season. But there's definitely a trust element. Slot's decided he trusts 13 at a push 14 players, and that's the core group that he's worked with. And we've reaped the benefits of it, but I think more recently we've started to feel a pinch a little bit more when it comes to the sheer running some of them had to do in Boslai's case. Let's talk options then, shall we?